Allow me to introduce you to Derrick Rose.
This guy is off the charts.
He's not the only point guard in the league who can make that play.
MVP time! Windy City Assassin does it again!
Too big, too strong, too fast, too good.
Derrick Rose was just too darn good for the NBA when he was in his prime. What ifs are always floating around the NBA, especially when talking about players who suffered injuries. Most notably, the great Derrick Rose. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how special Derrick Rose was in his prime, along with some of the reasons that he was able to dominate the game like he did throughout those years. Also, we gotta cover the reason that he actually has a rule named after him in the NBA's official collective bargaining agreement. Derrick Rose's prime was unfortunately cut short. We didn't really get to see him play at the top of his game for very long in the NBA, but there's a reason that everybody talks about how terrifyingly good he was during this stretch of time. He was able to win the Rookie of the Year award straight out of the gates and took the Chicago Bulls to the playoffs that year as well.
And then he threw it nicely to Derrick. Behind his back, and he drives and scores.
Oh my goodness, counter on this guy. Woo, he got lost.
This team had missed the postseason entirely the year before, and yet suddenly they found themselves in a heated Game 7 against the reigning NBA champions, the Boston Celtics.
And a point guard, guys.
All right, Nancy, thank you. Great stuff. Rose again, the lob for Noah.
Even though they lost, Rose was instantly being mentioned in the same breath as another NBA legend, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. This was because Rose dropped 36 points in Game 1 of that series against the Celtics.
By 9.
He's not on the bench here to start the second half. He was there for the first half. Derrick Rose with a nice off-balance leaner.
It was tied for the record for most points scored by a rookie in their playoff debut, with Kareem also putting together a 36-point showing in his rookie year.
The rookie playing in his first ever NBA playoff game. Most points ever by a rookie.
Fast forward 2 years, and Rose brought his team all the way into the NBA playoffs yet again. This time around, though, they weren't a low seed. Derrick led them to 62 wins that season and became the youngest MVP ever. He played in 81 out of the 82 games as well to make it even more impressive.
Oh, he's loose in the lane. Down the lane, scooping, scoring.
He averaged exactly 25 points a game along with 7.7 assists that year. He was also able to keep the Bulls trucking forward all the way into the Eastern Conference Finals against LeBron James and the Miami Heat. Sadly, James and company knocked Chicago out of the playoffs and ended their incredible run. Throughout that series, though, Rose averaged 27.1 points a game, doing everything in his power to keep the Bulls alive. Still, though, the season was a ridiculous success for somebody so young. He also broke the 2,000-point mark and had over 600 assists throughout that regular season, something that's only been done 15 other times in league history.
Core game to try to grind it out. They've got to play fast, and that's fast.
There's fast right there.
That's too fast.
That next season, though, Rose suffered that ACL injury that cut his unbelievably stellar prime way too short.
Now 44% from the field, 17 for 39. What a move by Rose! Oh! Yes, and it counts!
Now that we got to really talk about the accolades and numbers surrounding his incredible prime, we got to dive a bit deeper into his actual play. One of the biggest reasons he was so good was because of his ridiculous athleticism and explosiveness. Rajon Rondo recently spoke about how great Rose was and intentionally brought up his explosiveness in an interview. The quote started by him getting asked if there was anybody like prime Derrick Rose that he's ever played against. Rondo responded simply by saying, "No man, nobody. 7-game series when he was out there, boy, he put your ass in trouble. You're on your heels the whole game. You got a whole scouting report on him for sure, and he's still getting in there and jumping over everybody. He was too explosive. He was for sure a one-man fast break every night."
At the top, to his left, lost his dribble, got it back. Joe King, Rose for 3.
It's also worth noting that Rondo was on that Celtics team that went up against Rose and the Bulls during his rookie season, so he got to see his play up close and personal. Rondo also isn't a slack when it comes to the defensive end either. He was a 4-time all-defensive team selection, so for him to be saying that stuff about Rose in his prime really goes to show just how good Derrick was. His playmaking was something that flew really under the radar when looking at Rose's prime. You don't just instantly become a great leader by attacking the basket every single possession. Derrick understood that and was so good at creating for other teammates to help his team succeed.
Opportunities he's had, he's not able to get it. What a break!
Noah finishes, draws the foul. The building.
That's probably the biggest reason for his team's success throughout those first couple years. Rose had an assist percentage of 38.7 during his famous MVP season, and he also followed that season up with a 40 assist percentage before his injury.
The elbow area to find an open lane to cut.
There are very few players in the league who have consistently put up assist numbers like that, and yet Rose was making it look easy out there. Plus, we've got to take into account what Rondo said. These teams had game plans in place to try to slow down Rose, and he was getting doubled and sometimes triple teamed out there, yet he always remained calm under pressure and didn't force anything.
Making plays, gets in the air, but it's with a purpose. Finds.
That calm presence really just helped everybody out on the team and created tons of extra opportunities. After all, you don't just win 62 games by hogging the ball on every single possession.
And has matched that already tonight. Rose, great pass.
Before we move on to the next part of the video, make sure to take a minute and hit that subscribe button. And while you're down there, smash that like button as well if you're enjoying the video so far. Alright, now let's get right back into it. Let's move on to the Rose Rule. Yeah, you heard that correctly. Derrick Rose was so explosive and so talented early on in his career that the league literally put a rule in that was named after him in the NBA's collective bargaining agreement. The official name is the Derrick Rose Rule. This rule was put in place after Rose led the Bulls to 62 wins and took the LeBron James-led Miami Heat into a heated conference finals series. The Bulls decided to reward their superstar point guard by giving him a 5-year, $94.3 million deal to lock him down for good.
And that's why so many people feel like Derrick Rose could be the most valuable player in the league this season.
Shortly after, the lockout happened. The All-Star Game still took place that year though, which was the time that Rose was able to net a 14-year contract extension with the Adidas brand that would be worth well over $260 million. The league was seeing all these massive contracts go down with Rose, and when they got back into the full swing of another season, they placed the rule in for good. The rule allows young stars in the league to qualify for a higher maximum salary. They're able to take up 30% of the salary cap instead of the 25% that they were previously allowed. In order to be eligible for this extra money, a player on a rookie contract has to be named to a number of different accolades, including the All-NBA team, Defensive Player of the Year, or MVP. Any of them have to be achieved in the past season or two as well when searching for that contract extension. This rule also happens to play a major role in the NBA today, and there are a lot of fans out there who don't like it anymore. Mostly because it prevented the Boston Celtics from trading for Anthony Davis while Kyrie Irving was on the team. That was because both players signed contract extensions that had the Rose Rule applied to them. Teams are able to have 2 Rose Rule players on a single roster at the same time, but they aren't able to acquire them via trade. Still though, Derrick Rose was so darn good in his prime that he changed the course of the league forever with this deal and got a lot of other star players some extra cash in their contract extensions. Sadly, we'll never be able to see what Derrick Rose could have looked like if he hadn't gotten that ACL injury. Thankfully though, he's still playing in the league today, though his prime won't ever be returning.
Finds Rose. Rose trying to get open, fires away. Bang! It's over! The Bulls win at the buzzer!
Either way, it'll be forever recognized as some of the best few years of basketball that anybody's ever seen from a young player. His rare combination of handles, power, explosiveness, athleticism, and playmaking were a mix for the ages. And who knows, maybe we could be talking about Rose potentially being one of the greatest players of all time had he not gotten hurt. It's easy to agree that he was certainly on that pace before his injury with those career points per game numbers and his ridiculous impact on team success in just a short amount of time. With that, we officially wrap up today's video on the things that made Derrick Rose so good in his prime. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure you click on the one that appears on your screen now.